Hey there, welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. I'm Andrei from PSD Box, and in this video I want to show you how I created this manipulation in Photoshop. So what I'll be showing you in this video is how to create this rain effects. You see all this water, and besides of that I'll also show you some how I made some dodging and burning and some retouching, really basic, and well, some adjustment layers and stuff like that. But the main effect that I want to show you is how to create this sort of rain effects. So this is the final result of this artwork, and let me show you the starting image, which was this one. So I started with this and I ended up with this. So I hope you will like this tutorial. It's I would say intermediate to advanced, depending on your Photoshop level and how you understand it, but I'll try to explain everything in as much detail as I can. So let's get started. So for this tutorial I used, the couple is from Deposit Photos, and I used a lot of stock images of water, but I also painted some of it. And for this tutorial I'll show you the stock image, the stock folder that I have. So for the tutorial I'll use some other images which I purchased from Deposit Photos, because on the original I used some images that I got from Google, so I don't want to have some problems with copyright. So I purchased this images from Deposit Photos, and we will use all this water texture to make our image. And I also got some images from DeviantArt, so I'll give you the links to these images, and you'll have all this stock images here on this folder. So if you're a premium member, you'll be able to have all these images. Okay, so in order to get started, the first thing I want to do is create a new document. So let's create a new canvas. What I'll do is I want to use the same exact canvas size, so I'll select everything with Control Command A and go to Copy Merged, then press Control Command N, and that way you can see the height and the width of the document is the same as the image that I copied. So I'll click, well, let's name this Rain Effects PSD Box. Okay, so this will be our canvas. The reason why I use these dimensions is because the image of the couple is quite small, so I will use this as my canvas size. Let's start with the background. So for the background I used this image. I think it's from Stock Exchange. I'll give you the link to it. Okay, so we are getting close to the hair part. And you have a lot of ways of dealing with the hair. I'll show you what I usually do. Not always, but usually what I do is leave a space around it. But you can also, I've seen people doing things like that, actually cropping part of the hair and then bringing it back. But usually what I do is leave some space around it. And the reason why I do this is because in this case we have some solid color background, and we can use the refine edge to bring back all this hair, and I'll show you that. If your background is really busy, okay, if you have a lot of stuff there in the background, a lot of contrast changes, you could try the other method, draw the path inside of the body, so to say, and crop part of the hair, and then use a brush or something to bring it back. But for this particular image, this other technique works. And what I want to do now is use this brush to paint over the hair. The size of the brush is okay for this canvas size, and depending on the version of Photoshop that you have, this might be a bit different, but I think this feature is available even in Photoshop CS3. I'm not really sure, but you should have it. And what I will do now, as I said, this works because we have a fairly big contrast change between the man's hair and the background. We have this solid color background, so I suppose this will work nicely. So I'll leave everything here as it is, and the only thing I will do is paint over this. Okay, and when I let go, you can see Photoshop makes all the adjustments there and deletes the background. But what I don't like is we have this really on the edge there, so what I will do is cancel this, deselect with Control Command D, and move this here because I don't want that edge to interfere with my selection there. So I'll do this again and go to Refine Edge, have this set on layers, and maybe make the brush just a bit bigger like that, and do it again. Okay, I would say it works a bit better. Okay, now the hair is selected and masked, but we still have a problem. If you take a look at the man's body, you can see that these lines are too sharp, and sometimes that's not realistic, okay? So what I want to do is blur this slightly and also get rid of this 1 pixel line that you see here, which is white, and also here on the man's face and on the woman's lips, and that's not realistic, so I want to get rid of that. And I'll use the Refine Edge tool again, but the Refine Edge will affect the entire image. So I could make a selection, exclude the hair, but instead what I'll do is just create a duplicate of the layer and apply the layer mask. And I'll use the Refine Edge on this layer. I'll hide the models layer for a second. Notice that I didn't go too much here on the hair because I don't want to lose the texture. So okay, I want to keep the texture of the hair, so I here on the ear maybe brush a bit to make the smooth and the highlights and shadows a bit softer, like that. And let's see how that looks. I want to cover some black lines that I see there. So this can take a while depending on how much detail you cover and how much work your image needs, but you can see this part of the woman's back don't need too much work. Okay, so let me show you the before and after. Now you can see we have everything here on this new layer, and if I deactivate this, you can see the change. You can see that here on the face maybe it's a bit too extreme, but you can adjust the opacity of the layer, although I don't really recommend lowering it too much because you'll start to see the problems that you just covered. So that, I don't know, it depends on your image as well. So maybe I'll drop it to about 85%. Oh well, let's leave it how it was. That's how I smoothened the skin. Okay, the next step is making some adjustments, both to the background and to the couple. For the background, I'll increase the saturation using a hue saturation adjustment. So I'll increase this to about 15. I wanted to match a bit the ambient light, the ambient color. Okay, so that's why I added more blue, and I got this effect. And what I did next is I duplicated that with Control Command J and created as a clipping mask, and that way I doubled the effect. And you can do that, or you can simply double the values here. I think you'll get the same effect, but I'll leave the copy. In this case, I think it's too strong, so what I'll do is decrease the opacity to about 50%. Yeah, that looks a lot better to me. Yeah. So we have this sort of blue tone here. But the problem that I see now is that it has too little contrast, the skin, okay? So what I'll do is create some curves, a curves adjustment, also as a clipping mask because the background is okay, the contrast of the background is okay. And I'll press Alt and click between the two layers. And I actually have the values, the input and the output values. So for the top right point, which is the highlights, the white point, I have this to 252 and the output to 242. I think it's the opposite, yeah, 242 and 252. Okay, so I increased the highlights just a bit, see that. Then I add another point, a secondary point, and the values for this are 193, and for the output is 196. Okay, so I kept that here on the line, and then I added yet another one here down, and the values for this one is 73 for the input, and for the output is 70. Okay, so this is the change that I made to this with the curves. I gave you the exact values just so you see them, but you can just make it by eye. All you need to do is just increase a bit the contrast. See that? Add a bit more contrast on the skin. And then I made a dodge and burn layer. So I created a new layer, changed the name of it, changed the blend mode to soft light or overlay. Let's use soft light. And then go to edit, choose fill, and from the content choose 50% gray, leave everything to default and click OK. Okay, so let me disable and re-enable this burn layer so you see what we've done. Okay, so we increased a bit the contrast. Let's create that extreme layer that I was talking about. Create a new layer and I'll name this extreme, and I'll leave it on normal. Use the brush tool and set the color to white. Yeah, use a really small brush, and maybe these settings are not right, we'll see. And not bad, but I'll decrease this to about 20. And what I will do is, you can see for example this highlight here on the nose, I want to make it even stronger. So what I will do is create highlights now. Also keep in mind that this will be they will have their body wet, so this will make it, these lines will make the body look like it's actually wet, and they will help us with that effect. So I'll speed the video up here a bit. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The most important part is here on the face, to make the eyes stand out a bit and the lips, to make them look a bit better. And well, that's pretty much it. Let's start adding those water effects. Looks good. Let's keep adding water. I also have these other stock images of actual water on the body, so let's see if we can use this stock image part of it. Not really a good painter, so that's why I use stock images. I like how it looks there. Now I'll press Ctrl Command L to open the levels and maybe make this a bit darker, especially the shadows. I don't want to play with the highlights because we already have it too bright and the highlights are nice. So this is what we've got so far. You can see in this group here, which I named body water, we have all those layers that we added, and you can see we have a lot of them. And this is why I prefer to use stock images. You can see the effect is quite realistic, especially this water flowing, this water droplets here. So if I disable this, you can see the before and after. Of course, this is only for the background here, but we need to add some splashes here as well. You can also use brushes. I don't know if I have any. So what we're doing here is recreate the splashes that the water splashes from the rain, okay? But we don't have the rain yet, but we will add it. Let's see if we can use, well, we don't have any splashes here. We could use this one, for example. Let's try using part of it. And open the brushes window. You can click this icon here, or if you go to window and choose brush, and we need to change some things here. The first thing I want to change is the size. I want to have a variable size. The diameter, the minimum, we'll leave it like that. We will change the angle to about, and let's do it again. Yeah, that looks a bit better. So this is our rain here. I'll make a few layers. I'll undo and maybe increase on the scattering. I'll increase the scatter just a bit, and I'll paint 1 and 2. I'll create a new layer and paint again, maybe with a bigger brush size, 1 and 2, and I'll blur this. So I'll go to filter, blur, and choose Gaussian blur. One other thing that I did on this artwork was painting some water falling from their bodies, and I used my graphic tablet for that. You can do it with a mouse as well, but with a graphic tablet it's a lot easier. So what I did is I created a new layer, and let's name this water dripping, and I used this really small brush, 1 or 2 pixels, and set the foreground color to white, and I set the really low opacity and flow because I don't use, I activated the pen pressure for this, but it's not necessary if you use a really low opacity. So what I will do is increase it a bit, the opacity and the flow, to about 60%. And I'm not a really good painter, but let me show you the original. You can see all these drops of water here. These ones here, these were painted with a brush, and it's not, you don't have to make it really detailed, just a few details. Okay, so we are actually making just the highlights. Okay, so something like that. Maybe add a drop of water there, some drops there. So what I will do is speed up the video a bit so you can see sort of a fast speed art painting. I'm using a 1 pixel brush. Hardness, I could increase it a bit. But well, I'll speed up the video a bit so you can see what I'm doing, because it's a bit boring to watch me do all of this. So here you can spend as much time as you want, adding as much detail as you want, but okay, that looks nice. Let's make another one here. Okay, so you can see those drops of water there, and if you make a line like that just to make a highlight, they will look even more realistic, because we want them to be bright. Oh, something like that. And let's leave the contrast to about 4 or 5. Okay, so you can see that we get a similar result, but not exactly as the previous one. And we can then reduce the saturation a bit with the hue saturation slider with this adjustment. Okay, and we get this sort of result. Let me take a snapshot. Okay, okay, it's there. And then I will disable these 2 layers and re-enable the one that I made with the plugin. And take another snapshot so you can see the difference. See that? It's not really a big difference, so you get a pretty similar result. This is with the plugin, and this is what I made with the high pass filter. So high pass filter and plugin. Okay, so you get a different result, but pretty similar. Okay, so let's leave that how it was. But I think it's a quite realistic water effect, especially the ones that we got with the stock images. And let's see the before and after, the original image. Okay, so again, we started from this and we ended up with this. So I think it's a pretty nice change. So, well, that's everything I wanted to show you. I hope you learned something new with this tutorial. And if you have any comments or any questions, just send me an email or post a comment on my website or on YouTube. And well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching and see you on my next tutorial.